Missions group that sent missionary Chau to a remote Indian island is defending his strategy in trying to reach the isolated people group. Authorities believe the people on North Sentinel Island killed Chau after he attempted to make contact with them this month. They're still trying to recover his body. All Nations leader Mary Ho says that Chau joined the organization last year and was well prepared. She said All Nations considered any health risk he posed to be minimal. Chau received 13 immunizations before heading out, and he quarantined himself for days.
No one knows the exact health condition of the people. And in past history, yes, contact with Western population has wiped out local populations. But we are actually in a different time of advanced medicine and antibiotics. And I think a lot of modern medicine may be able to help the local population in some of the health issues. We just don't know.
Senior national correspondent Gary Lane joins us now with more on this. Now, Gary, this story is certainly tragic, but also a reminder of how dangerous it can be for missionaries.
Extremely dangerous, especially if you have a zeal to share Christ with people who are hostile or potentially hostile. And that is what happened to Chau. Now, he was a young man who just wanted the people of North Sentinel Island to know Christ. And for that, he paid with his life, Ephraim. He wasn't going to give up on that. He felt that, of course, he said that he didn't want to die, but he was willing to die because he felt it was important that God was calling him to do that.
And he knew the risk and dangers going in. Now, something like this happened before in the 1950s with a group of missionaries in South America?
Yes, and unlike Chau, now Chau went into North Sentinel Island by boat in 1956. Nate Saint and Jim Elliott and 3 others went into eastern Ecuador, and this is from the movie End of the Spear. By the way, that movie came out, as you know, about 13 years ago. Wonderful story, but tragic as well. And they just felt a need. They flew into this area in eastern Ecuador, into the Auca tribe. At that time, they were called the Auca tribe, and brought Jesus to them. But with that, the tribal people turned on them and speared them to death, and they died. Now, we say this is a tragedy, but you know, God uses this to build his church. And guess what? The leader of that tribe, Ephraim, came to Christ after that incident. And so did other members. And of course, you get the tribal leader, then you get other members of the church, of the tribe that come to Christ.
So sacrifice their life to take the gospel. Tell us about another dangerous part of the world, the 1040 window and efforts to take the gospel there.
Well, the 1040 window is an area, if you look at a map, it begins in northwestern Africa, across Africa, northern Africa, actually the northern half of Africa, and moves into the Middle East, into places like Iran and Saudi Arabia. And then from there into Afghanistan, India, into Myanmar, China, and of course Japan. So that's the 1040 window, Ephraim. And those are people that are either Muslim, Buddhist, or Hindu, and mostly unreached people. People who've never heard the gospel. You'd be amazed. You go into places like the Hindu Kush Mountains, and there are people there who've never heard of Christ. They've never met a Christian in their life. It's very dangerous if you go into these areas, but also very fruitful, because many people in those areas, once they hear the gospel, will come to Christ. They're very receptive. People are afraid to go in, but once you go in, you find that the people are very warm and will come to Christ.
Can you share a little bit about just the heart of missionaries? I know you travel the world, you get to spend a lot of time with them. Just share a little their heart and why they do what they do.
Well, and I've worked for a mission group, the Voice of the Martyrs, for about 3 years. I can tell you the heart of missionaries is to serve and to share the gospel. They're evangelists first and foremost, but they want to serve as well. It's not just bringing the gospel, but going and living with the people, sharing the love of Christ, materially, providing material goods, and also spiritually, Bibles and so forth. So it isn't just bringing the gospel, but also demonstrating the love of Christ and being with the people that you want to reach and serving them, building relationship.
That's beautiful. Real quick before we go, how should we be praying for missionaries?
Well, missionaries have it very, I mean, not all missionaries. Some live in pretty good countries where they don't have the same risks, but we have risks right here in the United States. I met some evangelists who were beaten up just for sharing the gospel here in the U.S. But pray that God will protect them, of course, but pray that He will give them wisdom when they go into those areas that are difficult and risky.